on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to another press conference reaction. This time for the FA Cup 5th round as Manchester United travel to the City Ground to face off against Nottingham Forest. And Erik ten Hag has been speaking to the assembled media at Carrington today ahead of tomorrow's trip to Nottingham in the FA Cup. Now, YouTube, by the way, today is doing a madness. Just going to put it on social media. Go on to X, type in YouTube, upload. You'll see all the problems people are having, certainly. So what we're going to be doing is bringing you a bit of an abridged, hopefully, an abridged version of the press conference today. Erik ten Hag, really the most bullish I can recall him being in a press conference, hitting back at Jamie Carragher, basically calling him a big bloody hater. On top of that, he's also defended his record of including youth players and actually a suggestion that people had criticised and doubted him in the past, and he's been proven right when it comes to the inclusion of some youth players as well. So there's plenty to get into. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Let's get straight into the questions. Let's get straight into the answers as well. So when it came to team news, the first question was about Casemiro. What was his status after, of course, he came off against Fulham at the weekend, had a clash of heads with Reed in midfield. Reed ended up staying on. Casemiro had to come off. He was bleeding from the head. The question was, did he have concussion? Is he available? Erik ten Hag said the following. You can see it right there. He said he was bleeding, so he had to come off. He's available for tomorrow. So Erik ten Hag will have Casemiro in the midfield, which would probably suggest, once again, we're going to be getting that midfield partnership of Kobbie Mainoo and Casemiro. Of course, the same midfield, not necessarily the personnel, but the structure, the setup, that was heavily criticised by Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football last night, but we'll be getting back to that. So good news about Casemiro, that he is going to be available, and most likely if he's available, he's playing, I think. So I don't expect Casemiro to be on the bench or anything like that. The next question put to Erik ten Hag was, now with tomorrow's game, how important is it to keep going in the competition, and how aligned are you with Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos? You know, you spoke last week that you were aligned with them, but results like Saturday can undermine that confidence. And Erik ten Hag once again kind of hit back a little bit at that, saying almost sarcastically, when you are unbeaten for January and February, then you lose one game, sort of smirking, basically suggesting, hey, you were just praising me a week or so ago about how great form we were in, and suddenly, you know, we lose one game and now the confidence has been undermined in me. He was prickly today, to say the least. He said, obviously, it was a poor performance, poor defeat. We want to stay in every competition. That doesn't change our approach, because that is for every match. So I did find it, like I say, he was today bullish. He was more bullish than I think I've seen him in many press conferences, and I've covered all of them here on United View. And yeah, he said that with a bit of a smirk, a bit of a smile, saying, I've won every game, or unbeaten rather, in 2024, lost one game, and now you're suggesting that there's no confidence in me. So he's feeling the heat. There's no way he's not feeling the heat. I think the rumours are starting to circulate. He sees what Gary Neville says on Monday Night Football last night. He probably reads and hears the same things that you and I do when it comes to the future, when it comes to possible replacements, when it comes to his style of play, his management. And I thought that was an interesting thing that he mentioned there as well. The next thing that was said to him was about the future, ironically enough, about Sir Dave Brailsford, about Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And it was Simon Stone who said, Erik, when you talk to Sir Dave Brailsford about the future, what do you talk about? And Erik ten Hag said the following. He said, about the future, I know the future. He's like Marcel, he doesn't exist in time. I know the future, but also I have to look at today, and we have to work on the team's development and progress, and of course to win every game. So it's quite interesting. I mean, look, Erik ten Hag, whenever he talks, there's quite a lot of sort of filler there. So the 3/4 of that answer is your bog standard answer. We have to work, we have to look to today, the team development, the progress, we want to win every game. But it's interesting, that first part there, isn't it? When he's talking about the future. I know the future. Now, does he know that the future consists of a Manchester United with him, with new structure surrounding him, with a new sporting director in Dan Ashworth, with a new head of recruitment, with Jason Wilcox involved in there, with Omar Barada involved in there as well? Or does he know the future is likely to be without him as well? So it'll be interesting to know what that future is, to be honest with you as well. So that was quite interesting, certainly. But this is really the headline stuff. The next stuff, which is Erik ten Hag hitting back at Jamie Carragher. Now, Flex and myself covered this morning on the Morning View, so I would really recommend that you guys check it out. But Jamie Carragher absolutely sliced and diced Manchester United and Erik ten Hag's tactical setup against Fulham, saying that they were trying to play a high breast? They won't play it doing that. What a Freudian slip that is. I'm not editing it out as well. A high press. A high press and a low block at the same time, and it was impossible. That is impossible to do. He criticised the setup that players had to run 50 or 60 yards to get back in position. He said that's why they're constantly injured. He said he's never seen a team defend like this. It was also pointed out the amount of shots that other teams have against us. It's comparable to Luton, to Sheffield United, and others, the newly promoted sides. And the suggestion was that it's just not good enough, and you're going to have games and results like that at the weekend. So the question was to Erik ten Hag, what did you make of Jamie Carragher? What did you make of his analysis? Have you seen it? Is that a fair criticism? And Ten Hag hit back. Yes, indeed, he did. He said, first of all, some analysts are very objective in their comments. Very good advice. Some are very subjective, basically saying they've got an agenda. Jamie Carragher, from the first moment on, has criticised, and now he wants to make his point. Probably in the first half an hour, yeah, he had a point. Fulham in their midfield setup surprised us a little bit, and then we have to find solutions. After half an hour, we found solutions. Now, interesting. Very, very interesting what he said there. I like the bullishness. I like the hitting back. What are you going to say? Also as well, yeah, he's right about everything. My setup and my tactics are a crock of shit. What am I going to do? Of course he's not going to say that. I think it's interesting that he, says that from the first moment, Jamie Carragher has been critical. And to an extent, he is right. Jamie Carragher, I think, look, when he does punditry, particularly on the Liverpool games, I don't think he should be on Liverpool games, to be honest with you, with his punditry, because he cannot do an unbiased commentary on a Liverpool game. He just can't do it. I like to think Gary Neville, in fairness, when he does Manchester United games, is pretty fair, pretty down the line, and actually maybe sometimes overly critical of Manchester United to try and compensate for, obviously, his affiliation with the club. Jamie Carragher doesn't care. Jamie Carragher's, when they're losing games against Arsenal, was criticising Arsenal players for celebrating or taking photos. Meanwhile, if they win a game and Jurgen Klopp runs on the pitch, it's a great moment, or it's Mo Salah, you little dancer, and all that kind of stuff. It's nonsense. He is incredibly biased when it comes to that. And when it comes to Jamie Carragher's analysis on Erik ten Hag, from the beginning, he has been critical of Erik ten Hag. You look back to his punditry on Lisandro Martinez. To this day, it's aged like milk in the sun, in the desert. It's terrible. It stinks. Saying that it can't work. Martinez is rubbish, this, that, and the other. So Erik ten Hag, to that extent, does have a point. Jamie Carragher has been critical of Manchester United. But in my opinion, watching that piece last night, watching his analysis that he did last night, a lot of it I don't think you could really argue with that much. Not only could you see it in the stats, you could see it with the eyes, you could see it with the graphics that they were pointing out. The gaps in that midfield were huge at the weekend, and to be honest with you, they've been huge all season. They've been there absolutely all season, and the analysis I thought was pretty close to being spot on with you. Now, is Jamie Carragher a big bloody hater? Of course he is. Yes, he is. Erik ten Hag can point out he absolutely is. But when he says that we found solutions, that's just not true, because we didn't find solutions. Go back and watch the match view. Honestly, go back and watch the match view, because Erik ten Hag was saying things in this press conference that I was pointing out in the game, saying that down Fulham's left-hand side, which was our right-hand side against Diogo Dalot, it was incredible in the first half. How many times it was 2-on-1, Robinson and Iwobi every single time. But Erik ten Hag says we recovered and found solutions with that after 30 minutes, which is not the case. It wasn't. I mean, we only really found solutions to Fulham when Maguire equalised. When was that? Really late on in the game? And he made those substitutions to try and balance out our right-hand side when he brought off Forson and put Bruno Fernandes out wide, and we don't like Bruno out wide either. So the part when he says, we found solutions. What solutions did we find? Because I didn't see that. So I appreciate the bullishness. I appreciate him pushing back. I appreciate him calling out Jamie Carragher for not being objective, because I don't think he is about certain topics, particularly Liverpool. But at the same time, I do think his analysis last night was pretty accurate. But also, what do you expect Erik ten Hag to say? He's just sliced and diced his tactical setup. He's just sliced and diced his defensive setup as well. He's going to have to fight back. He's going to have to back himself. And indeed, that's what he's done there. But I think it's very interesting that he's saying that some pundits and analysts are objective, some are not, some are subjective, and Jamie Carragher, I suppose, is one of them. So very, very interesting what he said there. Now, the pushback to that was, while you say you found solutions, and you say that his analysis maybe had a point for the first 30 minutes, but then what happened with the winning goal against Fulham? And Erik ten Hag had an answer. He said, it can't happen when they have a throw-in in the corner. How he managed it, it wasn't good. So he kind of alluded to, and he didn't outright say this in the press conference, but he did sort of allude to the fact that he said footballers aren't robots, and sometimes mistakes happen on the pitch as well. But he said that, in previous weeks, our setup was very good. That's why we won football matches, is what he said. As I mentioned, he said footballers aren't robots, so mistakes happen, but it's unacceptable and it can't happen tomorrow. So he really was pushing back on the idea that his setup was wrong, more so that the players weren't necessarily following, I guess, his instructions, and the players weren't following the tactical setup that they were supposed to be following, which is kind of the argument that people have been saying on social media, and I've seen it in the comments as well, or seen it in the live chat of people going, no, it's kind of like the Marcel point, isn't it? No, it's not the setup, it's the players. The players can't do what's asked. And as I've said previously, I think it's a hybrid of both. I think that it's not as cut and dry as just, the players, they just can't do it. Some of the players aren't good enough, absolutely. And some of those players don't fit into what Erik ten Hag wants his team to do. But what do you then do if you're the manager? Do you keep persisting with that, knowing that that approach is going to fail? Or do you tweak your style? Do you tweak your setup? Do you tweak your tactics in order to get the best out of what you've got now to save your job and preserve your future at Manchester United? And it's just going to be very interesting to see if Erik ten Hag decides to fall on his tactical sword and say, no, this is how I want to play, even though that's not working. And on top of that, even with the best players in the world, would that style of play, or would that setup rather, be possible in the Premier League? And lots of people say that they don't think it would be. So that's, again, very, very curious. So he fought back, hits back at Jamie Carragher there. Now, this is, again, where he was very, very bullish about this. So the question was to Erik ten Hag, you're not frightened about throwing younger players in, and also they asked about Anthony, saying he's dropped down a pecking order a little bit. What does he have to do to get back in? So this was quite interesting when he was talking about young players. And this was kind of sort of unprompted about throwing younger players in. But he said, first of all, I brought Kobbie Mainoo, and everyone is questioning. Now we are 6 weeks, and the same questioning are telling he has to go into the England squad. Same people. Garnacho, and he kind of clearly saw someone smirking, going, it's the truth. What is the manager doing? What is the staff doing? Similar, they need time. He continued on by saying, Amari came on, and it's not easy to come in a game because we didn't play our best game, but he plays a reasonable game. I tell you what, sirens in the chat. Or sirens in the comment section. I can't even do sirens in the chat. YouTube, screw you. But yes, he said, Amari came on, and it's not easy to come in a game because we didn't play our best game, but he plays a reasonable game. I think he showed abilities. He can be a player for the future. And then he said they need time, but they also have to know in top football you don't get time. You have to perform. When you come in, you have to show it. But as a manager, I know they need time. That's the paradox. I will give them the time. I believe in these players. Now, it was quite interesting that, because as I mentioned, it was more so about, starting Amari Forson and all this kind of stuff. But once again, very bullish by the manager there. Very sort of pushing back I put in Kobbie Mainoo. People were questioning me. Why are you putting in Kobbie Mainoo? Now those same people that are questioning me are saying he should be going to the Euros with England. So I was proven right. Same with Garnacho. Why are you playing Garnacho? Now people are saying how great he is. So it was quite defensive. It was quite defensive by Erik ten Hag, saying, you same people that are sitting there doubting me, I believe I've proven myself to be correct in the past. Although, to play devil's advocate there, I can't recall many people that were against playing Kobbie Mainoo. In fact, people were calling for it. In fact, people wanted him in there sooner once he was back from injury. But United and Erik ten Hag took their time, which was the right approach to do. And the praise has been universal for Kobbie Mainoo. Now, there were some flex who were saying that he shouldn't go to the Euros from early on, but I think even they have changed their tune when it comes to that now. But I'm not sure how much pushback there really was about including Kobbie Mainoo in those starting 11s, considering he'd impressed so many people on the pre-season tour, I think. Alejandro Garnacho, I think, was kind of the same, really. People wanted to see him in there more often than not because others, Marcus Rashford, weren't pulling their weight. Now, when it comes to Amari Forsum, should he play tomorrow against Forest? I don't think so. I think that, yes, I understand what Erik ten Hag is saying, that it's difficult to come in when the rest of the team plays so poorly. So by proxy, you're going to play poorly. But I don't think he looked ready for that game at Old Trafford against Fulham. So would he be ready for a game away from home, Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup 5th round? I don't know. From the start, I would probably go with Ahmad. Or he might go with Anthony, who he spoke about here. He said, Anthony, I backed him for a long time. I know his abilities, and he has great abilities. When he plays like I know from the past, he is unstoppable. No defender can stop him because he's one of the quickest players in the first 10 yards. When he plays that game, he will perform. I'm sure he will do it for the future. I'm sure he is resilient. He is a character, and he will fight back. And I back him. He now has to wait for his chance, and once he is there, he has to pick up. Now, this to me came across as someone, look, backing their player, obviously, but I think it was kind of also a case of backing himself. And I was thinking when he was talking about this, that managers sometimes are defined by their biggest signings or their most expensive signings, aren't they? Look back to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tenure. What do people talk about? What do people constantly talk about during his tenure? It was Harry Maguire. Why? Yes, because he made him the captain, but because of the amount of money that was spent on him. He wanted Harry Maguire, £80 million, yes. And every single time when it came to the criticism of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, there were several things to criticise him about. Obviously, style of play, not winning trophies, semi-finals, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, passion and desire, McFred, the list can go on. But one of the defining things of his tenure, his permanent tenure, was Harry Maguire. Was £80 million. You spent £80 million and you made him the captain. It was every single week, every single week, every single week. And it's kind of the same with Erik ten Hag, isn't it? One of the defining things of his tenure, and that people will talk about after he's gone, whenever that may be, whether that's 10 years' time, whether that's 10 months' time, whether that's 10 weeks' time, is people will go 85, 86 million pounds for Anthony. And it came across to me in this press conference of, I've got to back him, he's my player, but also I've got to make sure that people know that he's going to come good, because if he doesn't, that's a huge black eye for Erik ten Hag, isn't it? Massive one. You wanted him, you pushed for him, you got him, the club overpaid, and it's not worked out. And I know that he can say these things, that he will come good. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. And I really hope that I'm wrong with it. And I hope that in 5 years' time we're going for it was close, it was touch and go, but suddenly one day everything switched on for Anthony Dos Santos and he's great. But I don't see it. I just do not see that for Anthony. And I think Erik ten Hag probably sees it as well. Erik ten Hag can say these things in the press conference, but he's not picking him. And why isn't he picking him? Because he don't rate him at the moment. And I don't know if he ever will, but he just doesn't. I mean, actions will always speak louder than words, and they speak really, really loud about Anthony at the moment. And that is that you played Alejandro Garnacho right-hand side. At the weekend, you could have played Ahmad, you could have played Anthony, you played Amari Forsum. Tomorrow, will he play Anthony? Maybe by these words, he might give it a go. But if he doesn't, I won't be shocked either anymore. because it's not working out, and it hasn't worked out with Antony. And in the summer, they can say those things. You can say those things about he will come good, but as we spoke about this morning, if an offer comes in, I think United will take it. It's just a case of if they can convince Antony to leave a huge contract and go elsewhere just a couple of years into it, which I'm not sure they'll be able to do. And finally, he was asked if this week is a defining week for himself and for this season, because of course we've got this FA Cup match and we've got the Manchester derby on Sunday. Erik ten Hag said, so many more defining moments will be coming up. The first game is the most important. And I mean, really, I suppose it could be a season-defining week. It feels like every week is a season-defining week for Manchester United, of course, and for Erik ten Hag. And it does feel like, positivity or chaos and despair is only minutes away and just round the corner every single time. But if we get to the end of this week and we're out of the cup and we take a hiding from the noisy neighbours and their place, that noise that's there now is going to get exponentially louder. And I think, unfortunately, the problem is many people expect that to be the case. It's about getting through tomorrow, and then the derby, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen there? So that was the questions. Those were the answers as well. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. A reminder, you can see it on the screen right there. Flex and KG show coming up live, hopefully. KG the celebrity and all that this evening at 6 p.m. So be sure to join us then. Tomorrow, of course, we'll be live for the match for you. 2 hours before kickoff, as always. 5:45. Flex and myself will be guiding you through everything. So be sure to join us then. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Peace.